A very warm and good morning to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure, and we feel honored to have all the thought leaders joining us from across the country at our fifth Digital Transformation Virtual Conclave. On behalf of GovConnect team, Goa Electronics Limited, Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, Thales, Rah Infotech, Fortinet, ScoreMe, I welcome you all. Thank you for being a part of fifth Digital Transformation Virtual Conclave. We cannot deny the fact that our world is digital today. The startups in various sectors are using the new technologies for effective and faster delivery of their services. Our today's agenda is designed to focus on the digital transformation of public sector. To transform for tomorrow, the government is unlocking the opportunities of digital transformation. New strategies are being made to incorporate disruptive technologies in public services, as it will save time and drive efficiency. Moreover, it will improve public service delivery to its citizens in entirely new and more effective ways. We will also shed a light on how the government is seeking to take advantage of new technology for future ready governance, unfolding new technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data analytics, cloud, blockchain and mobility, cloud and cybersecurity, data privacy. The government will help to improve customer experience with greater transparency and scalability. Yet, the full potential of digital government worldwide, including in India, remains largely untapped. Global practices shows that to build a public sector fit for the future, government must reinvent themselves. Digital transformation is not just about new technologies but requires an overhaul of organizational structures, work processes, skills, culture and mindset. This applies not only to governments but also to society, institutions and the private sector in India. We are also delighted that the government is embracing the new technology. It is rapidly adopting the paradigm of digital transformation, and this is evident in some of the recent initiatives, including DigiLocker, Bharat Bill Payment System, PAN EPFO services, PMKY, VY, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana services, Swachh Bharat Mission, mobile app, and more. Next, we will share our thoughts on how the digitally enabled models in Indian railway networks have played a vital role in changing governance to smart governance. Technology and innovation have been changing the face of the railways, digitalization in all spheres of its operations, such as assets management, train signaling, smart ticketing and payment options, passenger information system, etc., has brought Indian Railway closer to the world class standard for the train operations. Last but not least, we will talk about the purpose of designing smart cities and how it will help to smartly and efficiently manage the environmental, social, and economic sustainability of resources for making living spaces more safe, attractive, and lively. We all believe and are confident that the public sector must eventually transform for tomorrow to seize the opportunities the digital world is offering. It will truly create a sense of momentum and excitement. Today's digital world demands new ways to deliver citizen experience. The public sector is facing pressure to transform the way it interacts with citizens, and expectations are being influenced by seamless, automated ways. Staying ahead of the innovation curve is more important than ever. For that reason, the government is committed to reinvent the citizen experience by unlocking the power of digital by constantly embracing the innovation and modern technologies. Forward looking initiatives that focus on giving people the public sector they want. While technology can act as enabler to redesign service delivery and achieve savings, the real reward is in improving outcomes for citizens and solving social changes. Now, I would like to invite Revati ma'am. So, thank you, ma'am, actually for being the host partner and supporting us in for this conclave and making this event huge. Basically, with the kind of speakers, with the kind of deliberations we'll have over the day, it wouldn't have been possible without your support, ma'am. Thank you. So, I'd like to invite Revati ma'am, who is the CEO and MD, Executive Director and MD from Goa Electronics Limited. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, all, and it's always a pleasure to be with such wonderful panelists in this session. So, as you set the tone rightly, Fahim ji, we are, I think, at the brim of a big change in the whole scenario, because last few years, because of the pandemic, we have seen a lot happening in all sectors, including government and majorly IT. Fortunately, IT has been one sector which has been doing immensely well in this whole pandemic, through the pandemic. And I was just reading through India Today's article that the silver lining to all of this is that we as a country are third in line for the number of startups who have been valuated more than a billion. Means we have 79 such startups, and mostly in the IT field, who have been valuated at that level. We are just third after US and China. So I feel another important aspect is that with the internet connectivity being under Digital India being taken up so strongly by the government of India and all states across the country, it's very positive to see that from 622 million we are planning to touch around 900 million by 2024, which is a huge leap in terms of active internet users for the country. The number of UPI transactions, as we have seen, has grown n-fold in the last few years. So, and the pandemic has just only added and fueled to these things. So, most of the experts, as they say, that it's a kind of a precursor where economies like China and stuff had changed because of IT and the value creation to the economy that these sectors got in. So definitely, I feel it's a very positive time that we all are into, and we see a good future here on. And such events will really take it to places. As far as our case is concerned in Goa, a lot of things, of course, happening in AI and IoT, as you said, and a lot of startups also working with the government currently. Yes, Fahim.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to welcome Mr. Soundarajan, who is the advisor with the National Institute of Smart Governance, to give his introductory note. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for getting me on, Mr. Huck, and good morning to the panelists and everybody who's onto this call, onto this particular webinar meeting. So I think this is a very interesting topic that we are in today. We're talking about the session address is very interesting. We're talking about reimagining government service deliveries and effective governance through digital transformation. I think that about says it all. It talks about three distinct words. One is service delivery through and effective governance, the outcome of that through what is called digital transformation today. Now, digital transformation is something which is being talked about, just about every second sentence that we hear today. Every service provider, be it an OEM, be it a service provider, be it somebody who provides data center services, somebody who provides software development services, somebody who provides banking services, whatever, healthcare, everybody is now talking about digital transformation in a big way. So I think a large portion of that goes to the fact that we are today impacted by a whole lot of digital new generation, new emerging technologies that are kind of coming up rapidly and which are impacting each of our businesses that we are into. Now, NISG today is an organization that's been around for 2 decades and fundamentally deals with helping the central government, the state government, the public sector undertakings, and any other institution in terms of defining the project right from incubation to ideation through doing the initial assessment and getting the entire project up and running. So, from that perspective, there are a whole lot of complexities that we see on a day-to-day basis, when we go about doing our work. Having established that, I mean, what is it that that we see from the aspect of service delivery? Now let's talk about what are we looking at from what are the end stated goal of a digital transformation exercise, and rather, what is digital transformation per se? So digital transformation, in my view and in our experience, collective experience, we know that anything that's being done today or which was being done yesterday, if it can be done better, if it can be done more transparently, more securely, systems are more available, so more scalable, and therefore more secure as well. I think that is broadly the umbrella statement that one could make when one looks at what is called digital transformation and the process to get there, the process to enable systems, processes, applications, businesses to achieve that goal, I think leads to what is called, I would think, broadly digital transformation. So, having established that, I think a lot of organizations today have what is called a digital roadmap. They have a digital transformation roadmap, which essentially means that you are talking about, laying down it. Digital transformation is not something that can happen overnight. All of us agree to that. It's a it's a what should I say, like in business parlance, it's called a disruptor to a large extent, that it kind of redefines or makes us rethink our priorities, our strategies, our business goals, etc. And therefore, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do like a clean break kind of thing, sort of reaching the whole thing overnight, or do we want to do it in phases? More or less, for large organizations, especially in the government, we're talking about e-governance initiatives that have taken on, for example, Aadhaar being one, the e-passport seva being one, the income tax, the MCA, and a whole lot of healthcare initiatives that have happened in the PPP mode are initiatives that are taken to reach that end goal of being digital and being like a part of the digital transformation journey at a macro level. So I think it firstly it means that you need to start looking at what is called a digital strategy. You need to define your steps that you need to take across the journey. You need to figure out what is important for the business priorities in terms of, are we looking at better productivity? Are we looking at upgrades of existing infrastructure? Or are we looking at building more functionalities and features into existing applications per se? Are we looking at services being delivered across multiple media channels, etc.? Are we looking at, for example, better response times, to put it very simply? Are we looking at transparency in terms of audit trails and database that's available? Are we looking at essentially data privacy? I mean, for example, today we see a lot of, the UPI transactions that have kind of ballooned and blown out of proportion over the last, so many years, the last 2 years, and especially with the pandemic coming in, a whole lot of transactions are digital in nature. People have done a lot more shopping on e-commerce, marketplace websites as compared to actually going to the nearby kirana store and buying stuff. So from that perspective, here is digital transformation, in action on a day-to-day basis, impacting everybody, from the pan wala to the chai wala to the person who sells, vegetables on the ground, and also, the big shops, the malls, and what you call theater owners, and people who want to buy TVs and high-end stuff. So from that perspective, it's an initiative that impacts everybody. Therefore, one needs to think about it, one needs to strategize about it, one needs to plan it properly, and therefore define what is the stated goals very, very clearly in terms of the end deliverables. What are we looking at? Are we looking at, as I mentioned, some of the few things? Are we looking at, for example, let's take transparency. And transparency is something that everybody expects in a great way from any government service, right? They expect efficiency, they expect availability. Like, I go to pay a bill, my electricity bill, for example, and I let's say, access the online electricity bill application. I need to know that I need to experience the fact that I can log in, I can kind of access my account, I can get my outstandings, and I can pay it right there and then, rather than waiting for it to kind of load and do the transactions in multiple steps. So therefore, it's important to kind of look at how efficiently we can build these systems. Therefore, it's important to assess what is it right now, what needs to be done going forward. So I think that these are the key things. And end of the day, any project that you do, any digital transformation exercise that you do, necessarily needs to be managed well. And when I say manage well, it's not about it's not about writing down terms and conditions and saying these are the deliverables D1, D2, D3, and these are the project schedules P1, P2, P3. Therefore, you need to meet those. Only then I'll give you my whatever is due to you in terms of payments based on milestones. What is important is to really look at facts on the ground. For example, we have come across certain examples where we were supposed to do some networking projects wherein the OEM was unable to supply the networking gear because there was some semiconductor shortage in the world, and that impacted the end deliverables. Now, one has to really look at how does one react to some of these, and how does one plan for some of these. These can these are force majeure events. One never thought there could be semiconductor shortage, but we have a supply chain issue on that today, and we need to address that. Now, effective governance also means being realistic, being practical about SLAs, being practical about what is expected from a particular application. We have a like I would put it this way. End of the day, we are all looking to provide better service. We are looking to provide more transparency. We are looking to provide better quality of experience when a citizen accesses a certain service. In any government entity. Now, therefore, what are the key elements that he expects? That he or she wants to get things done fast, more securely, and he wants to get it done without any major hassles of bureaucracy or red tape or whatever it is. Now, all that is should be a part of digital transformation as a strategy and a part of the stated service deliverable. So we have to kind of ensure that. Therefore, it is very important that we address those right at the beginning when we start the journey. I'll take a few more minutes, and then fundamentally, digital transformation also broadly addresses, or should address, or the strategy should address what is called technology obsolescence. There are a lot of legacy systems that we've seen. India has seen, especially in the government space, a whole lot of initiatives been taken over the last 20 years. A lot of services are being offered through automation, through what is called computerization, digitalization, etc. Now, all those are dated. Now, we need to really, really take a hard look at those and find out how we can modernize these, assimilate disruptive technologies like cloud services, for example. Let's go to hybrid cloud services. Let's kind of do business or enable business online between B2B, B2C, G2G, etc. And how does this help in legacy modernization for one? And that means we have to kind of look at a strategy of adoption of new technologies, not just for the sake of fact that the technology is available, but for the sake, for the very nature of the the technology infrastructure that's available today, which make it more convenient, more effective, and more transparent for us to do these modernizations. So that is something very important. And one last point that I would like to make, is any digital transformation means we're disrupting. This is disruptive. Let's accept it. Means I'm doing things in a particular way. There is a process defined A, B, C, D, and today digital transformation comes and says, listen, you're not doing this. Okay, you're not. I don't need to do this. I can go from A to C and C to probably F and basically finish it off. 3 steps instead of 5 steps. That is what digital transformation should do. Now, this leads into what is called a change management aspect, which means organization should be willing, department should be willing to really adapt and be accessible, be amenable to change, in the sense they should kind of accept that change is a way of life, and therefore that change is for the better. It doesn't mean that people are going to lose jobs. It doesn't mean that people are going to be not having to do work. There are many things to be done. They could be reskilled, redeployed elsewhere, and probably that is something which is very important. So, digital transformation, service delivery is something which is all-encompassing. It is not something that can be done overnight. It is something that will have lots of benefits to the organization, to the department that engages in digital transformation per se. And end of the day, when you talk about service deliveries, we are looking at service deliveries which will benefit the end customer, which is the citizen of the country, in whatever services he accesses in a transparent manner, which make people or the organizations accountable and more transparent. So, with that, I end my speech. If there are any questions, I'll take it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Soundarajan sir. As your it's like the background of your this thing screen says architecting e-governance. I think so you have very well defined about was like what the total actually the digital transformation is all about and how NISG is playing a key role behind it. So thank you for that. So, with this, I would like to welcome Shri G. Narendranath, who is the Joint Secretary, Cyber National Security Council Secretariat, Government of India, to give his keynote address. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. You know, I was listening into Mr. Soundarajan from NISG, and he spoke like a true practitioner of digital transformation, and the insights that he has provided, really reflects that he has got a hands-on experience of working through those projects, coming up with key insights in those execution of those projects, and really key insights. And some of those are points that he has snatched from me that I wanted to present. uh, but no ill will or anything intended. I'm really happy to have met him, because I haven't met him earlier, and your platform has provided me an opportunity to actually come across him, and I hope to continue this engagement further later on. One of the things he talked about is this disruptive and the change management part of it, and the willingness and amenable to change. It's a very important part. Right at the beginning of my career, I'm talking of late 80s and early 90s and all. We used to use a different term. We never used to call it digital transformation at that time. We used to call it computerization. And then, and I remember fresh out of college and into government, taking a PC-80 and and a 286 machine was a big thing at that time, and using PC-80s and 286 and then trying to put that into the systems. I was working in the Department of Telecom at that time, and getting people to use those systems. And then we had this in the banking sector where we had the computerization. There was a lot of opposition to that. Now we don't have opposition. I mean, we have traveled a long way. People have realized what are the benefits. So we don't really have to sell, digital transformation to people. Though there's an apprehension still, as Mr. Soundarajan rightly pointed out, that maybe some jobs are impacted. There's a comfort zone that people are in, and they might have to learn new skills, a new way of doing things. And that is where there's a challenge. How do you make assure the people and then show them that at the end of the road there's a better life for them? I think that's where change management is very important, to show them that what is that they're going to get, instead of thrusting it down somebody's throat and saying that aapko karna chahiye ye. I think that is where the change management part is very important in the digital transformation, and across the government. I think we should be in a position to listen, hear people out, before telling what we want them to do. That is important. That's one important part I wanted to just talk about. And as he said, that digital transformation does not happen overnight. You have to plan for it. Yeah. Having said that, I just wanted to talk about another thing that he talked about is regarding the assimilation of obsolescence of technology and assimilation of new technology. That's very important. I mean, now when you talk of this blockchain coming along, and you will find that it's going to be applied across. You're going to have AI tools being applied across. So you will find that technology absorption, into the organization is an important part. How do you manage capacity building there? Will become an important component. And when you talk of capacity building, it is not blanket. It's in the sense that there are layers of capacity building. Many a time when we talk of capacity building, we fail to recognize that there are people who use the tools for digital tools who need not know the real underlying technology. But then, because now digital is a new horizontal, like finance is the horizontal across all organizations. Digital is a new horizontal across all organizations. There are people who would be required to have real in-depth skills in maintaining the infrastructure, redesigning some of the, especially with the rapid change that happens. There's amount of creation that happens on a regular basis about how to re-architect the work. It's not that You put something in place today, like a building you've constructed, and that's going to be there for the next 20, 30 years or something like that, without much modification. Many of the digital transformation things that happen are some things that on a regular basis you find that there are modifications that happen in the way the work is done as you learn about it. So there is a separate set of skills that are required for people who would be architecting that and re-architecting the tools that are available. So that's a separate set of skill building that you require. And there's another set of skill building that you require to ensure that how do you keep these systems secure and safe. How do you do audits and really do audits, in-depth audits to understand and see how you keep them secure. So that skill building part is very important. And people who are, getting these technologies in place, the best way to go ahead and make it easy for people is to commoditize it, in the sense that, how can they deploy it in such a way that it becomes easy to fit it into the organization without having to do too much about it. That is very important part of in the absorption and adoption of the new technologies. How do you commoditize the whole thing so that it becomes a service and a technology which people can easily deploy and start using. So this is one part that I really wanted to talk about. The thing is, in this whole thing about commoditization is the issue importance of standards. The problem with rapid transformations is that non-standards based solutions come about, and then when you try to put together things, you find that interoperability an issue. Then you're stuck with some things. Then at a very short notice, then you'll have to replace the whole system again. So this standardization is a very important part in going towards this goal of commoditization of it. And I think at the early stage of technology development, we should start working in the standards area, standards sphere. India, sadly, is not very active in the standards area. We don't have many people working in the standards area, unlike in, for example, Europe. You'll find that there's a big body of professionals who contribute towards the standards development activity. This is one area I think we should actually foster standardization instead of getting something from outside and then start using that, so that we have those things taken care of. From our office, one of the things that we've observed is because we look at security, and then we find that across the organizations, there are things that get repeated. The same set of vulnerabilities, the same set of implementation issues. We get reports from across all organizations because there are some tools that are being applied and then it's being checked up, and that gets repeated. Cross-site scripting is something. Why should it happen that the same things get repeated? And it's not that one thing is the repetition, and the thing is they persist. You say that next year you go and see, and then you'll find that somebody has made some modification. They would have addressed that maybe, but then some modification would have done, and then you find that again the same vulnerabilities again there year after that. So this is where I think again I come down to the standardization part of it, that we have standard modules, things, so that you don't have people have the standard practices of developing products and services. So these vulnerabilities and things that don't get. So this is common design and implementation issues that keep repeating and becoming persistent. So that is very important that the standards again I come, and the capacity building part of it is very important of secure by design. And when I talk of secure by design, and recently we have normally we don't execute projects or anything, but we were involved in designing and execution of a project for our own use. And when we started working on the first meeting that we did have, we actually looked at the functional aspects. What is that functionally that we require from that? After the first meeting, basically because we are, we focused on security, we said that security is also a functional requirement. So I said that in the second meeting, he said, we incorporate security as a functional requirement, and let's start now about design, about what exactly we want to do. And I think in many organizations, what happens is when the design of the solution based on user requirements or the solution requirements is done, from the requirements as the design, security is not incorporated as one of the user's functional requirements. And that's where the problem comes. And then security is sought to be retrofitted through external firewalls and external all the other systems that they try to put in add on to that, and that does not really properly ensure security because it's not built across the complete solution, and it does not get built across the complete product at each stage. So I think that is another part that when you talk of e-governance solutions, especially it's national infrastructure in e-governance that we are talking about, that is being created. And it can have a catastrophic and embarrassing consequences, if there's a security breach. So it's very important that people realize that, and that security also becomes a functional requirement in the design of the solution. Here, we come to the capacity building part again. I always talk capacity building because I feel that if you have the right persons in the right places, everything else is taken care of. Technology is taken care of, the money is taken care of, implementation is taken care of, operation is taken care of. So again, when we come to this, you talk of the education system that we have, the BTechs in computer science and all of that. Maybe there's a requirement to, and I understand the curriculum is already overloaded. You start off with physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Again, after school, they start off with all of that, and then it's highly overloaded. But I think when they talk of computer science or any other courses, because the security is also functional requirements, I think they should inbuild that into the curriculum to say that how that secure coding happens, and how are the other features like access controls and monitoring mechanisms, how are those built into it? Because finally, if you talk of forensics or anything, forensics is not an after event. Forensics is by design. For example, if you don't have CCTV cameras, you cannot do any forensics. It means you have designed a system with CCTV cameras, monitors in place. That's why you're able to do a forensics later on. You are having correct logging mechanisms, and you also decided what is to be logged, and that's why you've logged it, you're able to do forensics. So forensics is something that is part of a design. And so I think, all of these requirements of how to keep things secure should be part of a functional requirement that goes into it. And then, so it becomes part of a curriculum. That's what I just wanted to say, and that's very, very important. Then the other thing I was wanted to talk, especially in terms of digital transformation, is the use of open source. Now, open source to a large extent has democratized, product development, and has allowed people, multiple agencies to come and develop products and services and deliver them. So we should be in the process of encouraging open source and people to use open source to develop, and then we should encourage that. And really, it widens the user base of developers and people who can make and develop and provide products. In the telecom sector, and that's a basic background from where I come, this is one, because what has happened there is that we have very limited number of vendors. There's a lot of consolidation that's happened in the market. We have limited set of vendors. And this is one area that work's happening. And there's one, the telecom infra project is one, and there's an open radio access network, also a coalition that has been created for disaggregating the network architecture into the hardware and software. And within the software also, earlier the standards used to happen between the core and the radio. The interfaces were standardized. So somebody could develop a radio and somebody could develop the core, and you could have two vendors coming in. But now we are trying to disaggregate the radio access network itself. So the different pieces of that radio access network could come from different vendors. There are challenges here. So now what's happening is you're defining the interfaces between the different pieces of the disaggregated software. And now you can, underlying hardware can come from, it's a general purpose service off the shelf service could come, and then you could do it. So now what's happening is broad basing. Your vendor diversity is one thing that's coming about. You have more players that are coming in, and that's there. But there are challenges here, and they're required to be addressed. And again, I come back to it. The security is a challenge because earlier when we had bigger vendors, they had robust practices in place, and they could ensure good software development practices. But when you have multiple vendors coming in, how do you ensure that they have good software development practices and the aggregated then radio access network is secure per se? So that is one area that requires to be addressed, and the industry is working in that, and the standards bodies are also working in that. But having said that, because open source actually reduces the entry barriers to multiple players coming in and developing products, I think we should actually encourage open source even in the government. That's what we have to do. Then I'll talk about, one of the things that happens is the trust factor. And we have this phishing attacks that are happening. And I've talked on a couple of platforms on this that are about trusted domains. We have the .in domain, and how is it if we, for example, all the banking domains are at .bank.in? What happens is when somebody looks at sbi.bank.in or canarabank.bank.in, axisbank.bank.in, he knows that .bank.in is a trusted, site, and he would not. It's not a phishing that's happening, because with multiple top-level domains coming in now, .org and .com are old, but there are around 1,200 to 1,400 top-level domains that are there. So you could have SBI any of those top-level domains. And SBI would not be having that sbi.com, sbi.org, sbi.cc or sbi.cn or sbi.uk or what, so many things. So definitely there would be somebody who would create a sbi. Something like that, and that would be used as a phishing attack when credentials captured, and he would be fired. So why not, for having a trusted, secure space, have all our critical or where we require trust as a factor, especially in transnational transactions and other e-commerce applications, ending with, let's say, for all the banks, .bank.in, or for e-commerce, let's say something like .ecommerce.in. I'm just suggesting something. And then increase the trust factor. This is something that we have talked about, and I think some work is going on in this regard to improve. So you have, all of these domains coming in that. So that is one. Then the other is, I take on from where Mr. Sundarajan is talking about, is, the digital first that we are talking about, and all the solutions that are coming into come on the digital platform. And you have large scale deployment of digital solutions happening. So it'll be large scale deployment, procurements that would happen in terms of equipment and solutions. And this is a good opportunity and a good window of opportunity for getting into the Atmanirbhar and, fostering Indian digital space. But here, we should have some amount of patience. And I'm talking from practical experience that, when an Indian product is developed, it's not that a product matures overnight. A product to a certain extent, is developed based on requirements. But unless you have a practical deployment, and then you will find out whatever amount of planning you do. I'll tell you that once a deployment happens, you will find there are issues that come up in the operations. That's why you have, of course, beta testing, and then you have a limited set of participants who participate in the beta testing and then, improve the product. There's a case here for co-creation, in the sense that, you participate with the, vendor who is there, and then work together to co-create that product and allow it to mature. And that is where I think we should work and then support vendors. And we, from our office also, we've been doing that. For example, some of the solutions that we deployed in our own office, we have actually, in the space of the co-creation, we have asked the vendor to deploy it, and then we're working with the vendor to improve that product without actually putting him in the embarrassing position of saying that aapko to kuch kaam hi nahi karta hai, aapko nikal ke ukhad kar le jao. So that I think, this is a big opportunity for us to develop skill sets within our own industry, and then, develop a level of confidence in the industry, to develop good scope products. It's good for the country. I think this is one area I think we should work with industry for co-creation and provide support for that. And here I talk about one practical experience we've had. CDOT is a R&D unit of the Government of India under the Ministry of Communications and IT. They have developed a VC platform, and we started using it extensively. And there were initial hiccups after they developed. Mind you, CDOT has got a very strong base in developing solutions on real time, because they are in real-time communications. So they have a strong base in real-time communication systems, digital communication technologies, which have developed over a long period of time, a few decades. So they did develop, but there are features of user interface and other things that I would say that they might not be their own strong points. So we did work with them, and currently, this platform is so mature and so very good, and we continue to use it. And I've received accolades. I know when we've had that used with even the private sector meetings that we have. We have received accolades about how good the platform is and how robust it is and how good it's I feel that this activity of co-creation and supporting them and working with them to improve, it's important for taking it. Now, finally, I'll come to some of the things that we're talking of. It's important to create national infrastructure for supporting different entities that are there. One of the national infrastructures we have created, and it's also going to proliferate across everything. Now, currently, we have actually given access to the academic community and to government institutions, some of the government institutions. That's the National Malware Repository. We have got a R&D budget, and based out of that, we have funded one for creating a national malware repository. And we are collecting malware. It's like Virus Total. It's like, you could say that in some sort of an Indian Virus Total. And we are at par now with the amount of malware that we have got in the repository. And we have provided access to the IITs, IIITs, to get access to that malware repository, do research on that, and then provide solutions for mitigation of the malware. And it also provides a platform for people, who have malware that's infected them to post that malware into the repository for, finding for analysis and then providing a mitigation solution for that. We're also working on a national threat exchange so that, the threat we ingest will be ingesting threat information from different entities and then providing threat information to the organizations. And also help those organizations in, actually how to use that threat information to mitigate it in their own organizations. We have also funded a project for developing of a national reference architecture. I mean, many a time, especially, this is of course for the critical information infrastructure. The critical information infrastructure, you'll find that everybody comes with a solution because everybody reinvents the wheel, and then he deploys a solution based on what their own understanding is. So this is one holistic study of different sectors like the power sector, the transportation, telecom, civil aviation, and all of that. And then we're going to do it into two entities. And then this reference architecture will be a good tool for people to look at and what is exactly required for them to deploy. What are the elements of that security architecture they should deploy? What are the probable products that are available currently? And what are the gray areas and where product development could happen? So this would provide that idea into that. And this is a project that is in the first year. It's completed the first year. And in the next couple of years, the reference architecture is in finalization. I mean, the basic document has been prepared. And now we are in consultation with the industry to, fine tune it before we put it in public. There's another one is the National Trust Center. With large scale, the mobile networks, for example, provide visibility into all the mobile, devices because of IMEIs and MSISDNs and all of that. The similar thing does not exist with IoT devices. So there's a case for having a national trust center for IoT devices, IoT applications, IoT service providers. So this is one area in that we started work on, and this is one we'll do. We now funded a national blockchain project with IIT Kanpur. And, one thing good about us is that recently you must have heard of that IIT Kanpur. They had a convocation where the Honorable Prime Minister actually given the decrees through using that national blockchain that we had funded through IIT Kanpur. And subsequently, because of the success of that convocation, it was decided that the Pradhan Mantri Bal Puraskars awards also be given through that national blockchain. So that blockchain. So we are actually in the project, and this is being used in Karnataka also for that land records. The Kavari land record system is on that blockchain. But as we implement that project, what we realized is that there are, especially in the land records part, there are a lot of pre-registration activities that happen. There are challenges in that, in the sense that there are a lot of cheating happens where, a person tries to, it is not, when you talk about blockchain, it's a registration and, getting encumbrance certificates out of that and keeping those records. But a person could, make deals with 4 or 5 people, and that's prior to registration, and take money from all of that. So then we think that why not provide access to citizens to this? It's not only to entities the registrar offers, but not provides access to citizens. So all these pre-registration activities also could be actually executed on a blockchain, so that we deal, we completely make the whole land registration process itself secure and trustworthy. So this is one thing that actually came to us as we were going through this, and maybe we are working on that to see that it is extended even to the general citizens of the country. So this, I think, I've taken a lot of time, but it's an interesting, exciting field, and and when you see the smile at the end of all of it, on the people who are using the services, it really warms up your heart. And with these words, I again thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I wouldn't have stopped you for another next 20, 15 minutes because it was really interesting, and the way you have talked about focusing on the standards and capacity building. I think so. Those are the two very key aspects, not only for this segment, but I think so everywhere we need to have that standards and the capacity building in place to run things in a smoother manner, sir. And also when you talked about the blockchain, and I think so the your department role is because we live in a digital world now, right? From the education, and during this last 2 years, the pandemic has brought everyone into a digital format. And I think so your department and you, I think so you all are doing some great work behind it to secure all these things. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being a part of this session, and sharing your insights, which I think so all our delegates or whoever is attending this conclave, they would have really liked the way. It's like they would have it's like it had meant a lot for them, because the understanding about whatever you talked, it was really interesting, sir. So I would like to again welcome Revati ma'am. If you can shed some light about how Goa Electronics Limited is focusing on the digital transformation roadmap. So if you can talk about Goa Electronics Limited, it would be really great. The audience would love to hear about it, ma'am.
Uh, as Narendra ji rightfully said, that when we started off initially, it was not about digital transformations, it was about computerizations, and it was about automations when we started off. Truly so, Narendra ji. And over the period of time, we all have seen actual transformations and disruptive technologies, as said by Soundarajan ji also, that AI, robotics, or IoT, and not only private but the government sector also is seeing a huge impact of all these technologies in various sectors. Coming down to Goa Electronics, basically in Goa, our two main economic drivers are mines, and the second is tourism sector. And in the last few years, we have seen, to start off with, we also got onto the bandwagon of IT, where service delivery was given online. All the services of the government were brought onto a single platform and given to the public to ease their ways of interaction with the government. A step forward in digital transformation, what we did in Goa was, by taking these services online, we kind of did away with the issue of no visit of the person to the office or to the government per se. And now, a step forward, we took it in Goa and we have devised a new framework called No Visit to No Document. What we mean by this is, we are devising a complete framework which we call as Goa Online. It's called. And today we have around 150 services on this, around 28 departments, all major departments of the government integrated. And if there is any document which has been issued by any department for a citizen, and if that document is used by any other service requirement of the government, it is not asked again from the citizen. So, what we are planning to do here is, I think this is a true example of how the transformation slowly happens. From now, you don't visit, but now you don't even get your documents to the government. We will ensure that we provide if we have it with us. So this is one important transformation which has happened in Goa, and fortunately, it has been so over. The response has been so good that when we launched this service, it was very overwhelming to see that around 96% of the people were giving it a very good and excellent review when they had this service at hand. So this was one major transformation that has happened in Goa. As I said, mining is one sector where we have been extensively working. Around 5 6 years ago, it was very disheartening for the state when mining sector was closed down due to a Supreme Court order, and because of all the happenings in the state, the whole country is aware of it, of what was happening. But again, how IT and proper, technology interventions took the whole scenario from where it was to where we are today is a is kind of a major shift in the way now we look at mining. Because now, with all the regulatory forms in place, with all the control rooms set up, the major issue that everybody had was the regulatory part of the government to be playing in the mining sector, which had some lacunas, some faults, which all could be rectified through the IT interventions. Today, sitting in a control room, the set of engineers are able to control the speed of the trucks, bring down the number of accidents happening in the mining sector, bring down the number of deviations in routes that were happening through the trucks and all the movement of the ores. So these are certain very specific areas where we saw a lot of transformation happening through the IT sector in this. Today we are handling around 15,000 trucks across the state who are all GPS fitted. They have the speed limits in place. So, and all of these working in a comprehensive manner to ensure that the regulatory part of governance is taken care of. Whereas if you go on the counter part of it, we in GL have also provided, we are working extensively with the tourism sector because, as I said, two sectors define our economy. One is mining and the second is tourism. Another important area is tourism. Through the pandemic, sadly so, our tourism sector was hit extensively badly. But I should say that the complete state has kind of used this time to pull up its all machinery. And as I said in the beginning, that now we are set to go full on with the tourism sector also, because with the intervention of AI, particularly, and Narendra ji, as you rightly said, we have moved, there have been jargons, and I always feel this that in the IT sector, we have a lot of jargons coming up. AI always existed. From the 1980s to 1990s, algorithms were in place, pattern recognition was happening. Yes, we are going full on with the whole technology. A blockchain, whether it is a single linked list, a double linked list put in place. So all of these technologies are there, were there. But now, as we are using AI in the domain of tourism, we see a huge transformation. What we are trying to do in Goa, particularly here, is initially when a tourist will arrive to the state, as a government, we did not have a thorough knowledge of what we should be serving the tourists who are entering into our state, because the analysis was not possible, the data was not available. Whereas now we have the data, and through analysis, we are able to predict the patterns of which countries arrive at which seasons. Is it that the Gujarati crowd comes in during the March and the Aprils? Is it that the Maharashtra crowd comes in and lives for a 4 day period, whereas a Delhi crowd comes in and is here only for 2 or 3 days? What are the activities that they enjoy doing? And based on this analysis, now the state is planning for, if Gujaratis are coming, we know in this season, we will have a Gujarati food festival happening in the state during this season. If we know that, the French are coming in at this, we will probably have a cuisine food festival happening for them in this season. What I am trying to say is, I feel that the government is coming to its maturity, though, even though capacity building of our end, that is the government itself, to assimilate and to react to these robust changes happening in technology has to gear up. We all have to still come up on many fronts as government, but we have already come a long way looking at all these transformations, and government is not any way, I'd say, out of the race, because we are using extensively all the technologies that we can in various sectors in Goa, particularly also. And through this, we will see the use of these AIs in the coming 1 year, 2 years, how we use it to increase the footprints of tourists and serve them better in the state. Another important aspect I will just like to tell that what Goa is doing. Again, taking lead from Narendra ji, the way you said that, in Karnataka, the major issue, as you saw, that the number of transactions happening on a land, you know, and keeping track of all of those in the history and bringing up those in the public domain. If today you could, all of the panelists and the members could go and have a look on Goa Online, if you go, there's a service called Property Register, where what we have done is something to the tune of what you are trying to say exactly. The requirement is the same, that being a small state, quite a population of ours is in the UK and in the in Dubai and abroad, whereas the lands that are purchased here in the state, the status of those lands, and as you rightly said, there are so many forged sales happening, registrations happening, which need to be curbed. And on this front only, what has been done is, if you go online and check it out today in Goa, any survey subdivision that we want to find in the state, or any land parcel that we want to find in the state, if we go online and check it out, we get the complete antecedents of that particular property. In the sense of antecedents, I say all the sales that were registered through the property, what hands it has gone to, what is the current situation? Is it a zoning? In the zoning, does it come in an NA, an orchard land, or what kind of land? The forest inputs have also been taken into the same for that land parcel. So each and everything associated with that land, you will get to see on a single platform through a single service. And there has been such positive response that people sitting abroad have sent in, candid mail saying that how it is helping them today relax, because they know that even if a single partition or a conversion or a sale is being initiated for that property, they will get to know it on the system, because the system even shows if there is a single case being taken up for a partition or a conversion against that particular land. So I think a lot of initiatives are being taken up by each and every state and each and every PSU in the IT sector. Like as we are in Goa, you have the Keltron, you have the Kionics in other states also. And we are trying our best as government sectors to catch up with the technology and to see how far these transformations can see the realistic impact of good service delivery to the citizens. So these are some of the works that are happening in Goa, and yeah, that's it for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Some great initiatives and work. If we talk about the e-office part or the mining thing, like how everything is being tracked and all. And the most important and aspect was the because Goa is basically a tourism sector, right? So tourism and the way analytics is helping understand the movement of tourists, like from which states, like in particular season, how many times, what duration they are spending and all. So this is actually very good use of digital transformation and technologies in a better manner. So thank you for that. And I'll come
I
back
think there's
to
an echo
Sondra.
that's coming. There's an echo
I
that's
think
coming.
so.
I think one of the mics. I think.
Sondrajanji, if you want to add something to this, it's like in
Yeah.
the next 2 3
And I
minutes,
also
that
would
would
like to just a couple of points based on what Revati ma'am has said.
sure, sure. So we'll start with Narendra sir, then again Sondrajanji, and
No,
then
no,
we'll
you can
bring in
start
Dr.
with. Okay.
Okay. So
Anyway, yeah, okay. No, no. One of the things regarding that land record part I was talking about is that one is, whenever you do a registration, that information, of course, is available on in the record, and it's good that they have. I think one suggestion I would like to give is, if there's any further transaction comes, the existing person who is the owner of that might should get an alert. I think that may be incorporated if it is already not there. Okay, that is one part I would like to suggest. The other, what I was talking about, the Karnataka case, is that Karnataka also has the similar thing, that all the transactions that are there are getting registered. So you can also have a record of all the transactions of that history of that particular parcel of land. I was talking of, lots of time there are some negotiations that happen before you go to a registrar's office. And the person would take some advance money, would take a couple of lakhs, and then say that formal agreement is an informal agreement is made between them that we will execute this and we'll go to the registrar's office. Many a times, the person he would actually execute such deals with multiple parties, and then finally maybe do registration only with one party. So a suggestion that had come about during the discussions was that why not facilitate even these transactions which are offline? I mean, are not part of the registration, but pre-registration activities be done on a platform. So that is what was the suggestion, so that they have access to the system. People would do that. So if I was wanting to be sure, I would say, if you are going to come and do a transaction with me, let's do it on that platform. So at least it prevents multiple transactions happening on the same property. Of course, the other one is on the lighter vein. If I was coming to Goa, I'm a Telugu, I would definitely like to have a Goa festival. Food festival.
Sure. Definitely, Narendra.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, Sondrajanji, if I'd like to bring you in, if you can just add 2-3 minutes to your talk.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, thanks for that. So, very interesting, points from everyone there. So, just a quick brief. I'm sure there are a lot of stuff that's available on the web, which can give you details about NISG. But just to bring in the context, NISG is a Section 25 company, which is under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY as we call it, Government of India. And 49% of that is owned by the government, and 51% of the company is owned by industry association like NASCOM, right? And therefore, it is basically an organization that has the look and feel of the government, but manned by professionals from across the India IT sector, business consulting services, etc. So an eclectic mix of talent that we have here in the team. So just to also kind of extend that a bit, as a policy in NISG, we do not NISG does not participate in any bidding process. So we only take projects which are based on nomination basis, be it any government department or a public sector organization. So these are projects which have been awarded on nomination basis, and that's how we execute them. So basically, NISG provides what is called consultancy services through the entire project life cycle to various ministries, departments, central, state government, and public sector undertakings. And NISG basically is involved in conceptualizing, ideating, or doing assessment of the project that is being talked about, that being thought about. Typically, in the public-private partnerships, we engage ourselves in building technology architectures. We do a lot of change management strategies. Then there are certain legacy processes which we kind of do what is called streamlining of those processes, and we provide also management bandwidth and support for the implementation of these projects on a lot of e-governance initiatives. Our charter is to shape up like a center of excellence in the area of e-governance, and we operate, in providing consulting service in strategic planning, in project development, and capacity building initiatives as well. So we have been involved in this capacity building for many departments very successfully. And one key point that I would like to bring out is we have been involved in 17 out of the 27 mission mode projects under the NEGP plan for Government of India. So that is something which has been our key achievement of the past 2 decades. So we basically also get involved in a lot of public-private partnership models for e-governance projects, wherein we get a whole lot of SIs or private players to embed themselves into a lot of government projects and deliver and bring in their capabilities, their project management skills, their execution skills, to basically to provide to be as an extension of the client program to get a project implemented. We bring in those management tools, the processes, the expertise, and a vast pool of experienced professionals to bring to bear on any project. So that is something that we have been successful in doing. That we continue to do that even more. Some of the programs that I mentioned 17 out of the 27. So some of the programs that we have done in the mission mode projects are MCA 21, the Commercial Tax Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, and the Targeted Public Distribution System, the Aadhaar project, the CAG project, etc., etc., etc. So the value prop that NISG brings is in the area of strategic planning, and we kind of take 3-4 key goals as our approach. One, we say that we are doing it from a citizen-centric approach. So we bring in an outside-in perspective in planning most of the governance initiatives. We consult with the external, internal stakeholders to figure out what is it that needs to be in the strategy, and then we also take the citizens' perspective in terms of what are the service quality that is being demanded out here or should be ideally presented. So that is something creates the citizen-centric approach. Then, from a services organization, services orientation, and building those capabilities around what is the kind of goalpost, how are we measuring those goalposts, how are we measuring the success of what is being done, does it require any process re-engineering, etc., is something that we do. And we also work towards defining the investments that are required in terms of those services and the value that is being delivered. So that is the second point. The third point is basically in terms of helping in devising public-private partnerships and formulating the strategies for that. So how do we do that? Is by bringing in best managerial resources. We also figure out in terms mobilizing financial investments, the technology resources that are required, and how do we build in the public sector accountability with the private sector service orientation, because that is something that's the whole tenet on which PPP models are based on. And at the end of all that, we also help in designing the fourth point in terms of designing the blueprints for core applications, policies, and how do we collaborate across multiple agencies, departments, etc. What are the IT backbone infrastructure, the service centers, the gateway, the security protocols, the applications that are required, and how do we kind of ensure interoperability, collaborativeness against all of that. And if there are any standalone applications that the department would like for the purposes of forensics or purposes of data analytics, etc., we bring in all of that. So by and large, this is a quick brief of what NISG does and what it brings to the market. I mean, there are many projects that we are involved in, but I think this summarizes what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Soundrajanji. And with this, we have got Dr. Rajendra Kumar, who is the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, with us. And sir, thank you actually for giving us time from your busy schedule. So without taking much time, I would like you to bring on main screen and would request you for a keynote address, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, and very good morning to all the fellow panelists and all the participants in this event. I was listening intently to the last few conversations in this discussion, and some of the points they perfectly address the issue of digital transformation that we currently are seeing across various government domains. So let me first try to build the context in which this entire buzzword of transformation through digital interventions is relevant. So as was mentioned by the earlier speakers, in the 90s, we had the word computerization being used in the context of projects in the public sector. both by government departments as well as by the PSUs. And that time, the idea was to really automate the manual processes, bring them into computer databases, and try to improve the service delivery through some kind of an automated interface with the citizens. Online came later, so that was the second part of that computerization. And during those days, in late 90s, early 2000s, even online would simply mean having a website of the concerned government department and providing mainly information. There was not much of interaction with the citizens. And then we had another phase for a few years where all the forms, etc., for different services were put on the website for people to download and then manually fill with ink by hand, then sign manually, and then submit either through post or or in person. And then after that, we had the interactive phase where people could also submit the form online. So people could either upload the form after ink signing, and then departments would receive, acknowledge through email or something. And then after that, we had another phase where there was more of a real interactive nature of the interface, where people could fill the form online, also submit with some kind of, authentication, and that would be used by government departments to deliver services. So this phase prevailed till about maybe 15, 20 years back. And then we had the first major national program led by MeitY, which was the National Governance Plan in 2006, which actually brought the larger issue of citizen interface getting transformed by digital interventions. And this phase was, I think, this last 15 years have been really very, very important when we consider how far we have come in the journey towards digital transformation, especially with regard to the citizen service delivery. Of course, in the last 7 years now, we have brought together more digital concepts together, and we have brought more domains in the form of the Digital India program, which was conceptualized in 2014, launched in 15. And now that is the broad umbrella program under which all the digital interventions of the government are being carried out. And in the last few years, we have seen the next phase of transformation when we talk about citizen-centric service delivery, which is in the nature of the platforms, the projects themselves getting transformed into platforms. So till about 10 years before, we had the concept of e-governance projects, where most of the projects they worked in silos. There would be little interoperability, even though that was tried to bring as a concept under the National Governance Plan. But still, we could not achieve true interoperability, and also the siloed nature of the different projects being implemented by various government departments. So all these issues they got addressed under the new Digital India framework way back in 14 and 15. And as a result of that effort, now we are seeing the applications, the projects moving from simple siloed applications to platforms where there is much greater focus on building an entire ecosystem of applications in a domain, in a sector. And then attempt is now being made to provide all these citizen services through one common interface for both citizens and businesses. So this we have seen happening in a number of domains. I can take the example of the health sector, which is, really a very large sector where this attempt is right now going on. And Honorable Prime Minister announced the National Digital Health Mission last year, and it is now being implemented in 6 UTs, and very soon will be expanded to all the states as well. Here, the idea is that entire health sector can be transformed by bringing all the applications in the health domain together onto one platform. So they are no longer applications. Now it's a digital platform which encompasses the entire sector, and all the applications are now part of this digital ecosystem. And we have seen examples of how this is being made possible by, for example, the COVID platform, the vaccine platform, which is the world's largest in terms of its coverage, in terms of its, speed of response, reliability, data exchange, etc., etc. So this is just one example of this entire approach, where we can see the magic of digital interventions in really achieving this kind of transformation at a very large scale. We also have now the new registries being built of healthcare facilities, of doctors, of nurses, of labs, etc. And all this, once it becomes a reality in the coming months, would really put us on par with the best in the world in terms of using digital technologies for really improving the lives of citizens, and also for improving ease of doing business in other domains. Also, we have similar efforts going on in sectors like education, agriculture, logistics, where you might be aware about the Gati Shakti platform being launched by Government of India. Again, here the aim is to bring all the logistics, the entire logistic ecosystem, onto one digital platform, using, of course, the latest technologies, and building on the strength of the different sectoral applications which are already there in many of the areas. For example, customs, or roads, or civil aviation, or railways, etc. So this is just one. These are just some few examples of how we can really deploy digital technologies to transform whole sectors for the benefit of citizens and businesses. MeitY also is a key driver. MeitY is the key driver behind all these interventions, because we are implementing the umbrella digital India program, under which all these initiatives are being implemented. MeitY also unveiled the $1 trillion digital economy vision in 2019, which is to be achieved by 2025, where the goal is to really carry this digital transformation to its full potential, in not only transforming the citizen centric service interface, but in ensuring that all sectors of the economy and everyone in the society, they benefit from digital interventions. And hopefully, with this integrated approach for the entire economy and society, the target of reaching the $1 trillion digital economy would be achieved by 2025-26. Currently, I would just like to mention the scale of what we are imagining, and what the vision is. The current level of digital economy in India is about $200 billion. It is increased now because of the growth in the IT sector. Maybe it is now 220 or 225. But the target is to take it to 1 trillion. So the scale of growth required is of 4 to 5 times in the next 5 years, in the next 4 to 5 years. And that shows the efforts that we all need to really undertake to achieve this vision of $1 trillion digital economy by 2025. And this is where MeitY is really focusing its efforts upon, working with all the government departments, all the state governments, the entire industry, not only the IT sector, but also the other sectors of the industry, where we believe that digital has a huge potential to really bring about real transformation, to take them to a different trajectory altogether. This vision is not incremental. This is a transformative vision where the scale of efforts required is several orders of magnitude more than what we have done so far and what we have seen so far. And how this entire vision is to be achieved, I would just like to mention a few key pillars of this entire efforts that we are spearheading. then that perhaps would bring the entire, it will address the issues that we're trying to discuss in this session. So the first pillar of this vision of $1 trillion digital economy is to really bring about world-class digital infrastructure to all parts of the country and to every citizen. Already we have the BharatNet reaching the villages. About half of the panchayats have been covered, and as announced by the government, this target of 2.5 lakh village panchayats to be covered would be achieved by end of next year or by 2024. So that's a key part. Also making broadband, quality broadband available to all citizens. We have the 5G network that will be coming up sometime before the end of this year. That would provide again a very high speed mobile network to all citizens and all businesses. The second pillar of this entire vision is what I talked about, the platform approach to applications. And I can mention a few more examples where, as a nation, we can really be proud of what we have done. Today, the Aadhaar platform, again built by UID, which is a part of MeitY, is the world's largest digital ID platform. And I can tell you there is nothing like this anywhere else in the world. And every nation today is looking forward to India, to MeitY, to really, help them in doing something similar in their countries. And we have had a number of cases where they all wish to collaborate with us and understand how we have done, how we have done what we have done. So this is one example of a really world-class platform, a building block, a cross-sectoral platform where this is made available to all the sectoral applications, so that they can really go live faster. They can really do the authentication of the citizens for delivering services in a totally seamless real-time fashion. Similarly, we have platforms like the UPI, Unified Payment Interface, again the world's largest in real-time digital payments. Again, there's nothing like this anywhere else in the world, including all the advanced countries. They all cite these cases where they want to learn from us as to how we have achieved such a larger scale transformation. We also have the government e-marketplace, GEM, which again has become very large, and this is the world's largest platform for government procurement. Totally transparent, totally seamless, and without any delays in payment to the vendors. Again, a huge transformation in how government does procurement. Then we have the GST network, again the world's largest. So I can go on and on. COVID, I mentioned, the vaccine platform. So all these transformative initiatives are really changing the entire landscape of how we perceive digital and how it can transform our lives for a much better standard, much better ease of living, and for businesses in terms of much better ease of doing business. The third pillar of this vision is to focus on electronics manufacturing. As you are aware, MeitY has put in a lot of efforts to really promote electronics manufacturing over the last many years. And as a result, today India is the world's second largest mobile phone exporter. So we can take a minute to really absorb that development. Today, India is the world's second largest mobile device exporter. The highest, the best quality mobile device are being made in India now. Even though we would like to see more value addition, but in terms of the ecosystem, we have covered a long distance in really building that entire ecosystem for mobile handset manufacturing. We wish to bring similar transformation in semiconductor, in display fabs, in other areas, where again the goal is to make India the world leader in really what we are attempting to do. And the vision is to take this entire manufacturing, electronics manufacturing ecosystem to the level of $300 billion by 2025, from the present level of about $75 billion. So again, it's a part of our 1 trillion digital economy vision, which we hope can become a reality in the next 4 to 5 years. Another pillar of this entire vision, where we believe that digital transformation can really be done meaningfully is in terms of bringing modern digital laws and data handling norms. And you may be aware about the PDP bill, which has been approved by the Joint Committee of Parliament recently. There, the focus is to ensure that we bring the world's best data governance mechanism to the Indian IT ecosystem, to the Indian overall IT sector. And there again, the bill that has been drafted, it is based on the best practices from around the world, and we have added several provisions which are specific, unique to the Indian society and Indian situation. Where again, the goal is to become the world's best in bringing the best data governance into the Indian ecosystem. And we believe that after this bill gets enacted, then we will have the world's most advanced, most contemporaneous data governance platform in India, data governance framework in India, based on very sound legal principles. So this is another area where we think really India can be the world's leader in data governance. And also, this once this bill gets enacted, then it will give boost to a very sound data economy and an innovation-driven ecosystem. Because now, if you see the emerging technologies domain, the entire emerging technologies, they are based on data, meaningful data to be made available. And we are sitting on humongous amounts of data as a result of the very large projects that we have implemented over the last 2 decades now. But to be able to use that data meaningfully, we need a legal framework for data handling and data governance. And this bill will fulfill that need to really give a boost to the startups, to really give a boost to our data economy, and to give a strong support to innovation-driven activities in the society and economy. Another area where we feel we need to really focus upon so that we can achieve this vision of $1 trillion by 25-26 is in terms of cybersecurity and capability building. So cybersecurity, you might be aware, last year India was ranked 10th in the world in the Global Cybersecurity Index by the UN ITU ranking system. And that was a jump from 47 in the year before. So in 1 year, we have leaped by 37 places internationally. And today we are ranked far higher than all our neighboring countries and far higher than many, many advanced countries. And how has it happened? That's because MeitY has really made tremendous efforts in ensuring that cybersecurity is not only taken as something that is to be done as a reaction to an attack or as a, reactive response, but we must be proactive in stopping the threat in its tracks and ensuring that we can meet the threat not only once it comes inside us, but we can proactively neutralize before it enters our ecosystem. So now you can see the difference in approach. So our entire ecosystem that we are now trying to build in MeitY in terms of meeting the threats in cybersecurity is to ensure that we not only secure our house when somebody comes inside, but we must prevent these attacks proactively. And that requires cutting edge capabilities at the periphery, in our networks, at the individual level, at device level, at systems level, in our data centers, in applications. So all these areas are now the focus of the activities that we are trying to really instill in everyone who is using digital systems to ensure that we can really meet the needs of the cybersecurity and neutralize the threats. One more area where we think is important to focus is in terms of capacity building, both for government organizations, the private sector, public sector entities, and also the citizens. So our programs, for example, in cybersecurity, they aim at creating awareness at mass scale among the citizens. So we have specific modules which are available online. We also have programs where we talk about these modules. We encourage people to go online and get training on their own. For the government departments, we have very large programs where we have trained tens of thousands of government officials in cybersecurity. We have deep dive programs for the people who are in the digital or IT teams of the ministries to really ensure that they are at the cutting edge in terms of understanding the requirements and meeting the threats proactively. Uh, One more area where I would really say that that's very important for us, and it's also perhaps the most dynamic and fast emerging sector, is in terms of emerging technologies. This again is a key pillar of the vision of $1 trillion digital economy, and the focus here is to really make India among the world's most advanced in, for example, artificial intelligence, in blockchain, in IoT, in 5G, and there is a whole ecosystem that we have put in place to really do advanced R&D, to develop cutting edge applications and deploy them in the sectors where they can bring maximum benefit. We have 25 centers of excellence, 25 in these emerging technology areas across the whole country, in almost all the major locations, where we are working with the industry partners, with the state governments, and with other entities, for example, our R&D institutes or academic universities, where the goal is to bring startups on board, to bring researchers on board, to conduct very advanced cutting edge R&D, to develop applications for specific requirements of domain ministries, and then deploy them so that we can take advantage of these technologies and become more competitive in what we are doing. And these are really bringing good results, and number of startups have become very prominent from these centers. We also have the MeitY Startup Hub, where more than 4,000 startups are now currently getting support from MeitY ecosystem of mentorship, of funding support, etc. And we believe that by putting in place this strong ecosystem, we would be able to really increase the growth of the Indian economy through digital transformation, and at the same time focusing on our key goal to achieve $1 trillion digital economy by 25-26. And this entire journey of digital transformation is being done with the support of all the stakeholders, as I mentioned, all the government departments, all states, all our industry partners, industry associations, our academic and R&D institutions. They are all part of this massive ecosystem that MeitY put in place. Of course, our own MeitY organizations, for example, NIC, CDAC, STPI, they're all part of this massive effort being led by MeitY to really achieve a very meaningful digital transformation in the next 4 to 5 years through digital interventions. So let me end my talk at this point. Perhaps if it is in the form of a Q&A, I would be happy to address any questions or concerns. And thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a very well articulated speech on digital transformation and the way MeitY is what MeitY and all, why MeitY is doing in this sector. So, with this, I would like to end. So, before we end this panel, we would like to give a small token of appreciation as a digital memento. So, my requesting my backend team to present the first digital speaker memento to Dr. Rajendra Kumar, who is the Additional Secretary, Minister of Electronics and IT, Government of India. Thank you, sir. The next one, I would like to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I would like to present the next speaker certificate to to Mr. G. Narendra Nath. Thank you, sir. The next one is
Thank you. Yeah.
the next one is for Revati, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And Sondarajan sir will send it to you by an email because actually TKR sir was to join.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. So with this, we'd like
Thank
to end this.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, G. Okay, bye bye. Good day.
Yeah, thank you.